Imagine finding your grandfather chopped in half like a pepperoni pizza, and your honest reaction is zero tears, zero sadness, and pure empty vibes. Meet our main character Jong, a guy who looks like a total K-pop idol, but possesses the mental stability of a glitching villain. Back when his grandpa was still alive, Jong brought home a rare herb and mentioned finding a fox den. Grandpa asked if he killed the baby foxes, and Jong acted like a total angel, saying the mother fox would be heartbroken. But Grandpa knew his grandson was hiding an absolute demon inside. He literally made Jong promise to never reveal his true nature to anyone. Fast forward to the present, and Jong is standing in front of his grandpa's corpse with a scythe, casually saying, "Sorry, Grandpa, I cannot keep that promise." Cut to Zhongyang County, where the local guards are parading prisoners through the streets. Most of these guys are basic petty thieves. But then we see Jong sitting all alone in his very own VIP cage. Up on a balcony, a mystery guy in a straw hat is drinking tea with an informant. The informant explains that Jong is known as the Scythe Killer Demon, a kid who chopped up tons of people. The townspeople start throwing rocks at his face. One hits him right on the head, drawing blood. And instead of crying, Jong slowly looks up and drops the most terrifying red flag smile in history. But as soon as the guy in the straw hat sees Jong's ridiculously pretty, bloodied face, he completely cancels his contract with the informant, thinking, "Found him, he is the perfect candidate." Jong gets locked up in the castle dungeon of Golden Jade Hall. Sitting there bruised and chained, Jong remembers how he ended up in this mess. He actually tracked down his grandpa's real killer, a terrifying martial arts monster with a scar near his left eye. Jong tried to throw hands, but got utterly diffed in 2 seconds flat. He realized that without learning real martial arts, getting revenge was mathematically impossible. Suddenly, white smoke starts creeping into his cell. Because Jong spent his entire life working with herbs, he immediately sniffs out the recipe: lizard's tail, purple parsnip, valerian root, and birthroot. It is a cheap sleep aroma. The prison guards faint instantly, so Jong pretends to be knocked out to ambush the intruder. The mystery guy in the straw hat unlocks the cell. Jong jumps up to attack, but the guy parries his strike effortlessly and taps his pressure points, completely paralyzing Jong. This guy is a total martial arts expert named Guard Cam. Suddenly, an insanely arrogant noble kid named Mok Jaeyoung-woon walks into the smelly dungeon. Guard Cam props Jong up, and when Mok Jaeyoung-woon removes his hat, it turns out he is Jong's literal identical twin doppelganger. Mok Jaeyoung-woon boasts about his rich life as the third young master of the great Mok Sword Manor. He offers Jong a deal: become his stand-in body double, swallow a deadly poison pill as insurance, and enjoy free luxury food and money. Jong looks at the poison pill, realizes this is his golden ticket to learn martial arts and get revenge, and swallows the poison like a red skittle. Guard Cam unbinds his pressure points and removes his cuffs. Mok Jaeyoung-woon smugly tells Jong to walk ahead of him. As they walk down the hallway, Jong instantly grabs Mok Jaeyoung-woon from behind and snaps his neck like a dry twig. Mok Jaeyoung-woon drops dead on the floor. Guard Cam turns around in total horror, and Jong just looks at him with the most unhinged psycho smile ever, saying, "Oh, oops, what now, Guard Cam? The fake is dead now." Before getting arrested, Jong went on an absolute rampage, burning down mansions and severing heads like he was playing Dynasty Warriors on easy mode. He slaughtered every single person he even suspected had a link to his grandpa's death. The scariest part was his internal reaction, because while standing in a literal sea of corpses, the only emotion he felt was pure joy, while standing in the pool of blood. He wondered if this sadistic urge was the exact dark nature his grandpa begged him to hide from the world. Right in the middle of his murder spree, the scar-faced monster who actually killed his grandpa dropped straight from the sky, even without knowing a single martial arts technique. Jong somehow survived the guy's ultimate strike. The scar-faced master moved faster than a teleporting video game boss, choking Jong out and stabbing him straight through his torso. He left Jong bleeding out in the dirt, telling him he should have just lived a quiet life. Against all physical odds, Jong survived those lethal stab wounds only to end up on death row in chains. But sitting in that dark dungeon cell, he swore that if he ever got another chance at life, he would grab it with both hands and never let go. Which brings us right back to the prison hallway twist. Jong just snapped the real young Master Mok Jaeyoung-woon's neck like a glow stick. Guard Cam loses his absolute mind, screaming that Jong is an insane bastard for killing his master. Guard Cam attacks with pure lethal intent, Jong grins through his bloody teeth and drops cold hard logic, telling guard Cam that blind obedience would have gotten him executed anyway. Jong grins then drops another truth bomb saying guard Cam should have executed him by now, and the reason he isn't dead is because guard Cam has no attachment to his master anyways. Guard Cam slams Jong into the stone floor and draws a sharp dagger, ready to end his life on the spot. But Jong lies there completely unfazed. Despite bleeding from his chest, he points out that he already swallowed the deadly poison pill, meaning he is totally forced to obey guard Cam if he wants the antidote. Jong literally pitches himself as the ultimate replaceable puppet. He tells guard Cam, "Look at the bright side. The third young master of the mock sword manor is now your loyal dog." Guard Cam stops his dagger a millimeter from Jong's face, realizing this crazy psycho kid just handed him ultimate political leverage. Guard Cam officially declares that from now on, Jong is Mock Jaeungwon. They move into a luxurious private room, where Jong gets cleaned up, bandaged, and dripped out in high-class young master robes. Guard Cam points a finger in his face, warning him that if he disobeys or tries anything sneaky, he will die instantly. He tosses Jong the 24-hour poison neutralizer pill, calling him a creepy bastard. Jong casually catches the pill and swallows it like a breath mint, internally celebrating how insanely lucky he is to be alive. Looking out the window at the sunset, Jong realizes the real young master's corpse will be identified as the Scythe Demon, meaning his enemies think he is officially dead, now living comfortably inside a powerful martial arts clan with top-tier resources. Jong plans to farm experience points, master elite combat techniques, track down the scar-faced monster who killed his grandpa, and chop him in half like a piece of firewood. Jong is sitting in his fancy new room trying to enjoy a nice bowl of ramen, but he cannot even chew in peace because of guard Go-chan. Outside, we see a little flashback. Guard Cam whispers to Go-chan that they are completely ditching Jong. Guard Cam finally realized that hiring a serial killer as a puppet was a terrible job interview decision. So his new plan is to abandon Jong and find a safer political sugar daddy inside the clan. Inside the room, Jong slurps his noodles and figures out Guard Cam's entire betrayal scheme just by noticing how comfortable and easy of environment Guard Cam provided him. He realizes the manor is suspiciously peaceful, meaning Guard Cam never actually needed a body double for protection. Jong drops the creepiest smile in history, realizing Guard Cam is planning to ghost him and switch sides. Jong casually walks outside for fresh air and invites Go-chan for a stroll. Go-chan immediately flexes his generic anime guard energy, grabbing Jong by the collar and telling him to go back inside unless he wants to see blood. Jong stares at him with totally empty eyes and drops a savage hot take, saying, "You are definitely weaker than Guard Cam." Before Go-chan can even process the roast, Jong grabs his arm and slams him onto the floor like a heavy sack of flour. Jong tries to seal Go-chan's pressure points, and Go-chan panics when he realizes Jong is literally copying Guard Cam's advanced martial arts after seeing it just once. That is like watching a 5-second tutorial video and becoming a master surgeon. Go-chan desperately tries to regain control, screaming that Jong will bleed out if he misses his daily poison neutralizer pill. Jong bites his own fingers, draws a drop of blood, and casually wipes it directly onto Go-chan's open tongue. Jong explains that because he ate toxic herbs his whole childhood, his body built up absolute poison immunity, and now his actual blood is literal biohazard poison. He grins like a maniac, telling Go-chan that only his blood can cure him now, instantly turning Go-chan into his terrified personal informant. Go-chan trembles in pure horror, realizing he is dealing with a total demon, forced to spill all the clan's secrets. Go-chan reveals that the Grand Manor Master, Mock Inden, is coughing up blood on his deathbed because he forgot to name an heir among his 4 sons. The whole clan is turning into a chaotic battle royale for the throne. To make matters worse, the Manor Master's first wife, Lady Sook, looking like a total evil stepmother villain with her giant fan and heavy makeup, kicks out the chief doctor for being useless. She decides to replace actual medicine with a sketchy shaman to perform dark magic, completely locking down the main hall like an angry landlord. After hearing this entire wild story, Jong casually strokes his chin with a dark, satisfied glare. He stands up and tells Go-chan it is time to move. When Go-chan nervously asks where they are going, Jong turns around with the most unhinged grin ever and says, "Where do you think? I am going to go crash the Manor Master's room." Jong is strolling through the courtyard like a casual tourist, breaking down Guard Cam's entire political scam. He figures out that Guard Cam wanted to use him as a decoy to provoke the cunning second son, Mok Yunpyeong, into an assassination attempt, then the greedy firstborn son, Mok Yongo, a guy who spends his entire life drunk in taverns like a frat bro, would backstab him, letting the real young master win the clan throne by default. It was a galaxy brain game of throne strategy. Until Zhang ruined the entire script by snapping the real young master's neck. Go-chan nervously asks why Zhang is heading straight for the manor master's private quarters. Zhang gives a soft villain smile and explains that his own survival is directly linked to the old man's health. Go-chan panics, asking what happens if guard Cam catches them. But Zhang just drops a terrifying grin and says, "Thanks for keeping my secret, guard Go-chan." Go-chan drops a massive internal curse word. Meanwhile, over at the main hall, Lady Suk is bribing a sketchy shaman named Myo Shin with 300 silver coins, so he can loot her dying husband's secret martial arts manual and official clan seal like a gold digger. As she walks away, she spots the fourth son, Makyu-chun, training shirtless outdoors. Lady Suk glares at him with pure evil stepmother energy. Furious that a child born from a geisha dares to be a Chad gym bro, Zhang and Go-chan walk right past Makyu-chun doing leg day. Zhang watches him train and casually asks Go-chan, "If I learn martial arts, can I kill guard Cam?" Go-chan gets hit with instant panic. Realizing Zhang already deduced guard Cam was planning to ditch him, Go-chan desperately tries to gatekeep martial arts like a toxic ranked gamer, lecturing Zhang that gathering inner chi takes 30 years of breathing exercises, so he will just be a frog in a well. Instead of getting discouraged, Zhang slowly reaches over and pokes Go-chan's eye, whispering, "Your eyes look greedy, it makes me want to poke them out, so become my person." Go-chan instantly submits, sweating bullets. Go-chan then warns Zhang that the fourth son violently hates the real young master for insulting his mother 2 years ago. Also, he beat the shit out of the real young master. Zhang bursts out laughing, calling the fourth son polite for letting the real young master keep all 4 limbs intact. Cut to the main hall, where Shaman Myo Shin has tied up the dying manor master in red sealing strings like a Christmas present. He realizes the old master is being consumed by terrifying murderous energy. The shaman slaps a cheap Wish.com talisman onto his chest and starts chanting dramatic anime exorcism spells. But the old master's dark aura flares up violently, blowing the magic right back in the shaman's face. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Before the shaman can even process what is happening, Zhang casually steps up to the bed, clasps his hands, and gives his dying fake dad the creepiest greeting in history. "Hello, father. I give you my greetings." Shaman Myo Shin screams at the top of his lungs, telling Zhang and Go-chan to get the hell out of the room. He panics like an underpaid IT guy whose customer keeps unplugging the router, claiming their presence is making the manor master's dark aura infinitely worse. But Zhang completely ignores the noise, staring intently at his fake dad, who is groaning like an angry resident evil boss possessed by pure malice. The shaman yells for them to help hold the old man down before he snaps his sealing strings. Go-chan and Zhang rush in to pin him down, but the possessed manor master suddenly grabs Go-chan's wrist, channeling toxic dark magic straight into his arm. Go-chan screams in absolute agony as his veins turn purple. Realizing he just caught a demonic virus like clicking a sketchy pop-up ad, Zhang casually draws his sword and chops off the manor master's entire hand with one clean slash. Blood sprays across the room, and while Go-chan is screaming in total horror, Zhang drops a terrifying psycho grin and chops off the old man's entire arm off. Go-chan loses his absolute mind, screaming that Zhang just dismembered the Grand Clan leader like a Thanksgiving turkey. This guy's idea of surgery is literally amputation any % speedrun. While the severed arms twitch on the floor, Go-chan tries to bandage the bleeding stumps, secretly planning to slip out the back door like an employee sneaking out before a mandatory meeting. But before he can even take 2 steps, Zhang teleports behind him and presses a cold steel blade directly against his neck. The shaman stammers in panic, asking if Zhang also wants the manor master dead. Zhang catches that sneaky word, "also," and presses the sword deeper, telling the shaman that complete honesty is his only survival cheat code. The terrified shaman spills all the tea, confessing that Lady Suk hired him to let the manor master perish, so he could use dark magic to loot the clan seal and secret martial arts manual. Go-chan gasps in pure horror, realizing that if Lady Suk gets those items, her spoiled firstborn son will take over the clan and execute them all. Go-chan begs Zhang to save the old man, but Zhang drops a sinister smile and tells the shaman to go ahead and loot the secret manual anyway. Zhang orders him to hurry up, leaving Go-chan completely terrified by his master's unhinged speedrun logic. The shaman pulls out a straw voodoo doll to trick the evil spirit into leaving the dying body. He lights up the talisman and begins interrogating the demon inside the puppet, Go-chan takes the hint and steps outside, so he does not hear state secrets. The shaman demanding to know where the secret loot is hidden. The possessed doll starts groaning like a glitching GPS, revealing that the secret manual and clan seal are locked in an underground chamber past the stone door beneath the medicinal hall. But right as the shaman gets the answer, the dark spirit explodes out of control. Purple demonic hands burst from the voodoo doll, and the shaman screams for Jong to cut the sealing strings before they all get wiped out. Jong swings his blade and slices the strings. But instead of stopping the curse, a massive swarm of creeping ghostly hands shoot out from the floor. The demon hands wrap around Jong's body, completely covering him. If you guys like these type of recaps, please consider subscribing and check out my other videos. It really helps. Right as the ghostly hands engulf Jong, Shaman Myo-shin slaps a glowing yellow seal directly onto his forehead. He genuinely thinks he successfully dumped the evil spirit onto Jong, solving his entire problem while leaving Jong to take the blame for the crime scene. Inside Jong's mental mindscape, the giant purple demon boasts with supreme villain confidence. It decides to abandon the Manor Master's fragile old body and hijack Jong's fresh young body instead. It casts a mental illusion spell to trap Jong in a permanent dream loop, forcing him to relive his peaceful childhood at his favorite mountain watering hole. In the memory, young Jong carries a water bucket through the sunny forest, but notices dark smoke rising in the distance. He drops his wooden bucket and runs home in a panic, only to find his grandfather cut in half on the dirt. As memory Jong cries over the corpse, the evil spirit weaves a second illusion, magically bringing the grandfather back to life. The revived grandpa hugs Jong, telling him to snap out of it. The demon chuckles in the shadows, believing it has trapped Jong in a blissful delusion of endless happiness. It plans to lock Jong in this fake memory forever, so it can take total control of his physical body. In the memory, Jong sits next to his grandpa and asks why he named him after the character for Righteous. But right in the middle of asking, Jong suddenly turns his head, reaches out, and grabs the giant demon's face with his bare hand. The demon loses its mind in sheer shock, screaming in horror as Jong stares right at it with unhinged psycho eyes. Jong crushes the demon's skull, telling it that playing with his dead grandpa is extremely annoying. Jong grins like a maniac, declaring that he does not want fake happiness. He wants to rip apart the bastard who actually murdered his grandfather. The evil spirit feels pure, overwhelming malice seeping into its soul. It realizes Jong possesses a primal evil intent so horrifying that even spirits of the dead would run away in terror. But right beneath that dark malice, the spirit senses an ancient restraint. In the memory, Grandpa explains that he named him Righteous because he knew Jong was a born monster, praying he would grow up kind and keep his dark nature sealed away. Terrified for its life, the evil spirit turns around and runs through Jong's mindscape like a scared cat. It spots a giant red wooden door locked with an ancient demon seal, thinking it can hide inside Jong's subconscious. The demon reaches out to open the door. Before its hand even touches the handle, black tendrils explode from the seal. The dark aura grabs the demon, dragging it into an abyss. The demon screams in horror as it realizes it is getting reversed and devoured. Gulp. Jong's dark subconscious literally eats the evil spirit alive. Back in the physical world, Jong snaps his eyes open. Surging purple lightning explodes across the room, and Shaman Myo-shin gasps in absolute shock. Jong casually rips the yellow sealing charm off his forehead like a cheap sticker. He stands up totally unscathed, while a giant, terrifying demonic monk spirit with a skull necklace materializes directly behind him like an overpowered JoJo stand. We see Inner Manor Lord Jang Myeonjin, a pirate-slaying veteran, and a loyalist to Manor Master talking to Lady Sook. She is trying to get him on her side, to keep peace in the mock sword manor. But Lord Jang Myeonjin doesn't trust a cheeky shaman, so he decides to take a look on his old leader, with a giant, skull-wearing demonic monk floating behind him like an overpowered JoJo stand. Jong casually points his finger and orders his new spirit to execute Shaman Myo-shin. The shaman panics in absolute horror as the giant demon lunges forward, realizing Jong is somehow commanding a high-class vengeful spirit with complete authority. The demonic monk slams the shaman onto the floor, crushing him without a shred of mercy. The shaman drops to his knees, begging for his life and promising to do anything if Jong spares him. But Jong casually steps forward and refuses. When the shaman stammers that he only lied about the ritual, Jong drops a sinister smirk and says, "No, that is not why. Didn't you already tell me where the secret manual is?" The shaman realizes in pure horror that Jong was planning to execute him from the very beginning. Before he can even scream, a swarm of dark ghostly hands wrap around his face and crush him to death. Zhang calls Go-chan into the room, and Go-chan almost jumps out of his skin when he sees the shaman's lifeless body. Zhang tells Go-chan to carry the corpse, then draws his sword and starts wildly hacking up the furniture. Zhang casually explains his cover-up story, saying they will pretend the shaman went crazy, chopped off the manor master's arms, and they had to put him down. Go-chan points out a major flaw, warning Zhang that Lady Suk is way too smart to buy such a half-hearted excuse. Zhang thinks about it for 2 seconds and says, "Fair point. Let us make it a bit more believable." Before Go-chan can even ask what he means, Zhang draws his blade and stabs himself straight through his leg. Blood sprays everywhere, and Go-chan freezes in pure psychological horror. Zhang grins through the pain and asks if it looks more convincing now. Go-chan stammers in fear, offering to bandage his wounds. But Zhang tells him to leave it bleeding, so his face stays extra pale for dramatic effect. Suddenly, the front doors slam open. Inner Manor Lord Zhang Myanjin rushes into the room. He sees the armless manor master, the dead shaman, and Zhang bleeding. He screams in rage, asking what happened. But Zhang staggers forward like an Oscar-winning method actor, whispers to check on the manor master, and dramatically faints onto the floor. Go-chan looks down at Zhang's unconscious body and notices Zhang is secretly dropping a sinister smile. Go-chan loses his mind internally, realizing this crazy kid was completely acting the whole time. Because Zhang fake fainted from leg wounds, he gets free VIP transport straight to the medicinal hall. Zhang relaxes on the bed, enjoying the smell of herbs and celebrating that he ended up right above the underground secret chamber. Go-chan brings him 2 surviving occult books from the shaman's burning belongings. Go-chan asks why Zhang is reading those books. Zhang asks Go-chan what does he see outside those windows. Go-chan replies nothing. While reading, Zhang looks out the window, seeing his giant demonic monk spirit casually floating outside in the dark night sky. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echo outside the room. A guard tries to stop Lady Suk on the entrance, but Lady Suk slides open the door, with her giant fan and heavy makeup, glaring at Zhang and saying, "Let us have a chat." Zhang just stares back at her with a calm expression. Lady Suk stepped in to have a chat. Go-chan greets the First Lady. Zhang instantly identifies her as the clan's cunning first wife and politely bows from his bed, apologizing that he cannot stand up due to his self-inflicted leg wounds. Go-chan prays that Zhang can talk his way out of this. But Lady Suk cold-bloodedly strikes Zhang right on the injured leg. Blood sprays across the floor, and Go-chan screams in absolute shock. Lady Suk's female guard holds a sharp blade at Go-chan's throat, while Lady Suk leans over Zhang, mockingly praising him for stabbing his own legs to make his cover-up story believable. She laughs right in his face, claiming a skilled shaman would never get possessed during a ritual, and slaps Zhang onto the stone floor like trash. Zhang lies on the floor bleeding from his lips, but instead of crying, he bursts into the most hysterical psycho laughter in history. Lady Suk asks if he completely lost his mind, but Zhang simply whispers 2 words, "Demonic monk," before anyone can process what is happening. The giant demonic monk's spirit shoots past Lady Suk's face and grabs her other female assistant by the throat, lifting her into the air like a rag doll. Lady Suk panics in sheer horror as Sohui chokes, and Zhang casually stands up and whispers directly into Lady Suk. Zhang grins menacingly, telling her she should have tried negotiating instead of making empty threats. He drops a ruthless political ultimatum, explaining that if she keeps treating him like garbage, he will simply hand the secret manual and clan seal to her biggest rival, the second brother. Or even better, give it to the 4th brother, the Gigachad Jim Bro. Zhang chuckles, telling her she has zero upper hand in this situation, advises her to stay warm, and casually walks out. Back at her mansion, Lady Suk loses her absolute mind, smashing expensive stuff and screaming in pure rage like an angry Karen. She fumes that some fool stole the fruits of her labor, realizing Zhang was hiding his true psychotic genius all along. Realizing she cannot handle him alone, she orders her guard to contact the Phoenix Pavilion, the shadowy assassin organization of cult shamans that Myoshin belonged to. At midnight inside the medicinal hall, Zhang sits on the floor doing light research on occult spirits. He learns that spirits are ranked by a color tier list: red, orange, yellow, and green. He realizes his demonic monk is a yellow spirit, which works great on weak NPCs like Go-chan, but gets blocked by first-rate martial artists like Lady Suk and Guard Cam. Flipping the page, Zhang discovers the green spirit, an ancient decades-old evil demon capable of casting massive hallucinations and controlling entire environments. Zhang grins like an Pokemon collector, deciding he needs to catch a green spirit for his demon arsenal. Holding a warm lantern, Zhang steps down into the pitch-black underground basement to hunt down the secret manual. Zhang descends deeper into the stone staircase beneath the medicinal hall, wondering why anyone would dig this deep underground just to hide a few books. He knows he needs more overpowered cheat codes if he wants to defeat Guard Cam in a real fight, especially since his demonic monk spirit gets completely blocked by first-rate martial artists. He pushes open the fourth stone door and steps into a dark, cavernous tunnel. But as soon as his foot steps on a floor pressure plate, an entire Indiana Jones trap room activates. Massive boulders crash down from the ceiling. Spiked pendulums swing from the walls, and a barrage of deadly arrows shoots directly at his face. Instead of panicking like a normal human, Zhang casually vaults over falling rocks, runs up the walls, and deflects every single arrow using the wooden stick of his lantern like an absolute legend. He smirks through the chaotic rubble, wondering if all these lethal traps were built just to guard a martial arts manual, or if something infinitely darker is hidden at the bottom of this cave. After gracefully dodging a swinging axe trap, Zhang lands safely in a massive, symmetrical wooden temple built deep underground. He notices the place looks like a secret underground training hall, complete with furniture and tea tables that look like someone actually lived and trained here for years. Zhang approaches a central altar and opens a wooden chest, finding the clan's ultimate prize, split into the Adamant Resolve cultivation technique and the Woodheart Sword transformation technique. Remembering Go Chan's briefing, Zhang casually pockets both books without hesitation. However, Zhang's unhinged detective brain immediately catches a massive flaw. He realizes it makes zero sense to construct an entire trap-filled dungeon just for 2 basic manuals. He spots a heavy cabinet with drag marks across the wooden floor, and after sliding it aside, he reveals a secret floor trapdoor locked tight with yellow ceiling charms. Zhang tears off the charms and opens the wooden box hidden underneath. His lantern light flickers unnaturally, and when he pulls out the hidden book, he smells a sickening, grotesque stench. Zhang inspects the horrific leather texture and drops the most terrifying psycho grin in history, realizing the book cover is bound in literal human skin like the Necronomicon. Meanwhile, up at the surface, loud party drums and wild music echo across the main hall. The second son, Mok Yunpyeong, an arrogant snake with long black hair, is drinking wine and celebrating like he just won the lottery. He boasts that the manor looks brighter today, confident that he is one step closer to becoming the supreme leader of the clan. He turns around and thanks his new political partner for making it all possible, revealing Guard Cam bowing respectfully in front of him. Guard Cam greets his new boss, officially completing his snake betrayal and setting up a massive war inside the clan. Second young Master Mok Yunpyeong hosts a late-night feast for Guard Cam, celebrating their brand new secret alliance. Guard Cam lies through his teeth, confirming that the young master lost all of his martial arts abilities. Guard Cam secretly plots to decapitate Zhang later to prove his loyalty, while Mok Yunpyeong laughs like a smug snake, thrilled that his third brother is officially eliminated from the succession war. Guard Cam tries to keep his personal history hidden, but Mok Yunpyeong casually drops a massive bombshell, revealing he knows Guard Cam is actually a former elite assassin from an infamous faction. Guard Cam freezes in pure terror, sweating bullets as he realizes he completely underestimated this arrogant snake. After dismissing Guard Cam, Mok Yunpyeong still feels suspicious that something is wrong. He orders his top martial artist enforcer, Cho Il-sang, an early peak realm expert, to sneak into Zhang's room, check if he is hiding inner energy, and break his ankles just for fun. Meanwhile, down in the secret underground basement, Zhang holds the horrifying human skin book, feeling a sickening pulse beat through his fingertips like a dark heartbeat. Suddenly, dark purple energy surges, and Zhang's giant demonic monk spirit appears. But instead of floating proudly like usual, the giant ghost demon unexpectedly drops to its knees, bowing in absolute fear and reverence toward the human skin book. Zhang gets confused and then grins like a maniac, realizing this human skin book is an ultimate dark treasure. But because his demonic monk spirit was summoned into the basement, Zhang's sharp instincts immediately realize an intruder has just broken into his bedroom upstairs. Upstairs, Cho Il-sang sneaks over the rooftops like a budget ninja, passes guard Go-chan, and slips through Zhang's window. He sees Zhang lying in bed fast asleep, so he creeps over to the desk to search for hidden evidence. Cho Il-sang spots the 2 stolen clan manuals lying on the table and picks them up in absolute shock. He instantly recognizes the Adamant Resolve and Woodheart Sword techniques, celebrating like he just won the lottery jackpot that will secure the clan throne for the second brother. Suddenly, Zhang vaults across the room, grabs Cho Il-sang's head and smashes it directly over the table with pure WWE power. With a bloody nose, Cho Il-sang realizes Jong was pretending to be asleep, and Jong drops a terrifying psycho grin, saying, "What business do you have in my bedroom? Were you feeling sleepy? Well, I can put you to sleep. I am a kind man after all." Jong ruthlessly pummels the elite assassin, slamming his face through the wooden tables like over and over. Cho Il-sang coughs blood in pure psychological horror, realizing this kid is a complete lunatic. At this point in the manhwa, I don't know where to add my humor. Like, wait for a goddamn moment, bro. When Cho Il-sang finally regains consciousness, he finds himself tied up in thick ropes and hanging upside down from the ceiling. Jong sits casually in front of him, draws a sharp, gleaming dagger, and drops the creepiest villain smile in history, saying, "Now then, let us talk." Go-chan takes one look at the beaten ninja on the floor and instantly recognizes him. This bloody mess is Cho Il-sang, one of the elite guards serving the second brother, Mak Yun-pyong. Go-chan starts sweating buckets, desperately begging our resident psychopath to just let the guy go because the second brother treats his talented enforcers like prized Pokemon, and hurting him will surely cause problem. Does Jong care? Absolutely not. He casually hauls the assassin away like a sack of laundry, while Go-chan drops to his knees, questioning every life decision that brought him here and praying his crazy new master does not start another bloody massacre. Over in the dark interrogation room, Cho Il-sang is hanging upside down like a budget Batman, trying his best to act tough. He smugly demands to be untied, claiming his master will show mercy if Jong just hands over the secret martial arts manual. Bro is really trying to intimidate a guy who stabs his own body just to fix an alibi. Absolute main character syndrome delusion. Jong finds this entire speech hilarious, smiling brightly and cutting the rope to untie his hands. Cho Il-sang actually thinks his weak threat worked, right up until Jong casually holds a severed bloody finger in front of his eyes. Pop quiz. Whose finger could this be? Cho Il-sang looks down in pure horror and realizes his own digit is missing, but he did not feel a single drop of pain. Jong casually explains he cooked up a custom paralysis poison from the medical hall, meaning Cho Il-sang is completely numb, but he is going to lose one finger every single second if he fails to answer. Jong initiates the speedrunner interrogation tactic, counting down without even giving the guy a chance to speak. 1, 2. Cho Il-sang screams in utter terror as Jong rapidly chops through his hand like a TV chef slicing carrots. By the time Jong reaches 4 and casually aims for his thumb, Cho Il-sang completely breaks, sobbing and spilling the tea. He confesses that Mak Yun-pyong sent him to verify if Jong actually lost his martial arts. Jong pauses, instantly realizing guard Kim fed a clever half-truth to the second brother to cover up his own embarrassing defeat. Cho Il-sang hangs there internally losing his mind, realizing this fake young master is playing 3D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Then Jong hits him with a cold blank stare, realizing he has 0 questions left. Seeing the terrifying dark aura radiating off Jong, Cho Il-sang knows he is about to meet his maker and starts aggressively glazing. In pure terror, he screams that Jong is a mastermind, the rightful ruler of the manor, and begs to swear his absolute loyalty. Jong gives him that iconic devilish smile and agrees. Cho Il-sang thinks he just unlocked the secret good ending, right up until Jong casually drives a dagger straight through his throat. "You said you were willing to risk your life, so let me borrow some blood." Talk about taking company loyalty a bit too literally. It turns out Jong needed the blood of a pitiful, undeserved death to corrupt the Yin-Yang seal locked around the forbidden skin book. He dangles Cho Il-sang's bleeding corpse directly over the rosary box, letting the sacrifice soak right into the binding. The impure blood instantly triggers a massive supernatural explosion. A giant geyser of dark red energy bursts through the room, painting the walls in floating crimson mist. As the bloody storm settles, crimson butterflies begin fluttering through the air, revealing a stunning, blonde-haired spirit in a glowing red dress and bamboo hat. Jong just summoned an absolute top-tier red spirit goddess, and you know this absolute menace is already plotting how to turn her into his newest cheat code. Jong takes one look at this glowing crimson waifu and instantly realizes she is not some low-tier ghoul. This is an azure ghost, a century-old ancient spirit that ranks at the absolute top of the ghost hierarchy. Normally, it takes a full squad of 10 high-level Taoist masters just to exorcise one of these nightmarish entities. But our insane protagonist just smiles like he won the supernatural lottery. The azure ghost floats down, hitting him with massive spiritual pressure, while casually commanding him to empty his spirit and hand over his soul. She pulls out a literal smoking pipe, taking a puff while roasting him for being slow, asking if his soul is taking its sweet time to leave his body. Bro is literally getting crushed into the floorboards, but instead of panicking, he flashes that signature psycho grin. He looks right at the century-old ghost and hits her with the ultimate roast, pointing out that no matter how powerful ghosts pretend to be, they are all just pathetic parasites lusting after human bodies because they are totally useless on their own. Imagine getting body shamed by a teenage murderer while you are trying to act like an almighty. Absolute disrespect. Zhang challenges her to get his body by force. Boy is getting freaky. The Azure Ghost gets instantly triggered. He barely dodges an attack to his torso, then instantly gets blasted with blood ribbons that slash through his flesh and flay his face. She taunts him, telling him to give up and submit because there is nothing he can do. But she is completely shocked to see Zhang still standing on his own 2 feet, coughing up blood but refusing to hit the floor. Realizing his soul is ridiculously durable, she changes tactics, binding him against a giant pillar with blood tendrils and offering a deal. She promises to grant his deepest desire if he willingly surrenders his soul. When Zhang asks what happens if he refuses, she gives him the classic villain ultimatum, claiming she will just murder him and find another soul. The ghost gets super hyped, asking if he wants revenge on someone who killed his family, promising to tear his enemies to shreds and erase their souls from existence. She is grinning like a gacha player about to pull a top-tier character, begging him to state his desire. Zhang looks her dead in the eye through his blood-soaked face and drops the coldest line of the series. My desire is for you to shut up already and obediently become my familiar. The ghost's smile completely vanishes, triggered beyond belief as she unleashes her ultimate torture realm. She blasts his mind with pure reality-warping agony, laughing about how his flesh is being butchered, his bones carved, and his soul permanently damaged. Inside the hallucination, Zhang finds himself floating in an endless sea of thick crimson liquid. He analyzes the taste, noting it is foul, metallic, and grimy, completely different from the warm blood he tasted back when he was slaughtering people as the Scythe Demon. He realizes real blood carries warmth and life, while this fake blood represents only death, which means this entire gory hellscape is nothing more than a cheap mental illusion. Zhang mentally flips the switch and rejects her illusion entirely. The entire realm shatters like glass, bursting into a million glowing shards as her mind control collapses. Back in reality, Zhang steps forward completely untouched, dripping with terrifying dark aura while the Azure Ghost stares in sheer traumatized shock, realizing she just tried to mind control an actual demon. The Azure Ghost is in complete mental shambles, staring at Zhang in sheer disbelief. She realizes he just used freedom of senses, an elite Taoist spellcraft that completely cancels out reality itself to shatter illusions. This ghost is internally screaming because even high-rank Taoist masters struggle to pull this off, yet this teenager did it effortlessly on his very first attempt. And what does Zhang do after pulling off an impossible high-level spell? He bursts into hysterical, maniacal laughter right in her face. The ghost gets super offended, asking how he dares laugh when he still has zero chance of overcoming her in a real fight. Zhang just grins like a lunatic and says he just thought of a hilarious idea. He whips out the human skin book, remembering that ancient evil spirits are always bound to a physical vessel, and instead of using holy water or fire like a normal person, Zhang literally sinks his teeth into the book and takes a massive, psychotic bite. Bro is out here eating dark magic artifacts like it's a KFC family bucket. The Azure Ghost screams in blood-curdling agony, clutching her chest as if her own flesh got bitten. She is flabbergasted, screaming about how no mortal should be able to bite through a book reinforced with monstrous key. Enraged beyond belief, she attacks him directly, declaring that she is no longer interested in his soul and just wants him dead. She slashes at him, but while Zhang is getting choked out, he notices a hilarious flaw in her strategy. He looks at her through his bloody teeth and asks why she does not just snatch the book out of his hands. That is when he realizes the ultimate secret. She cannot actually touch her own vessel. Zhang gives her the smugly evil grin of a gamer who just discovered a game-breaking exploit. The ghost loses her absolute mind, screaming for him to spit it out while violently strangling his throat. As her dark energy rushes into his body, Zhang feels an overwhelming surge of pure hatred, recognizing that her burning desire for vengeance matches his own psychopath mindset. Suddenly, their spiritual aura links up, dragging Zhang directly into her tragic backstory memories. He finds himself standing in an endless battlefield covered in thousands of rotting corpses. He sees the Azure Ghost back when she was a living warrior, sitting exhausted among the dead. She marches up a grand staircase to slice up a creepy, silver-haired lord with deer antlers sitting on a throne. But before she can land a hit, The stag-horned creep grins smugly and she gets impaled right through her chest. He grabs out her heart with bare hand, as his shadow guards stab her with a dozen daggers, sealing her dying soul into the book. Suddenly, the flashback shatters back to reality, and a glowing red thread of fate connects Jong's heart directly to her chest. The Azure Ghost's hat falls off as she collapses to her knees, staring at the glowing string in sheer horror and screaming in panic that she somehow became his familiar. And for those who don't know what's familiar, in fantasy and fiction, asking or forcing a spirit to be a familiar means binding them as a magical servant. Meanwhile, Jong sits on the floor, chill as hell, casually celebrating that he just unlocked a free legendary Azure Ghost pet. The Azure Ghost is in total denial about being forcibly bound, lunging straight at Jong to rip his head off, but before she can even hurt him seriously, she instantly clutches her throat and violently coughs up. Turns out a familiar spirit suffers the exact same physical damage as its master, meaning if Jong gets hurt, she gets wrecked too. Jong realizes this pain link and wonders how the giant demonic monk is holding up. Meanwhile, cut to the demonic monk standing outside under the moonlight literally crying because of the known pain. Poor guy. Back in the room, Jong decides it is time to break the ice with his new ghostly companion. He introduces himself as Mok Jiang-woon and asks for her name, but she just sits on the stairs smoking her pipe in stubborn silence. So Jong playfully declares if she won't tell her name he call her whatever he likes. Then he grins like a menace while calling her Red Dung Beetle. She instantly loses her absolute mind, screaming in pure rage while Jong laughs hysterically. Bro literally has more chemistry with a deadly ghost than a human. Seeing that she refuses to give up her real name, Jong decides to officially nickname her Blue Spirit. When she seemed fine with it, Jong decides to call her with that. He notes that she has a massive ego and he cannot just beat her up. So he resolves to slowly raise her affection points like a dating sim. Jong opens the human skin book, asking Blue Spirit if she knows what is written inside. She acts extremely petty, claiming she does not know anyone named Blue Spirit and tells him to stop bothering her. Jong examines the inside of the book and seemed fascinated to see that it's written with blood. Blue Spirit giggles, thinking no way he will be able to decode it, the blood-written text, noting that the characters look like a chaotic jumble. But he decides to read the incantation aloud anyway. She gets super shocked as he recites the ritual chant. Dark purple aura begins swirling around his body. He is literally activating a high-level technique on his very first try. But suddenly his energy gets stuck and he starts violently suffocating. Purple chi convulses through his body like a deadly allergic reaction, and Blue Spirit panics. She screams at him to stop breathing, empty his mind, and purge the chaotic energy immediately. Jong instantly calms down, cleansing his aura and taming the wild chi in mere seconds. Blue Spirit is flabbergasted, staring in utter shock because an untrained teenager just successfully executed the ritual of attachment. This is an ancient high-tier technique that manipulates the nature of chi to pull things toward oneself, and she realizes she is looking at a monster prodigy. Jong gasps for air and asks what went wrong, and Blue Spirit flusteredly explains that his breathing was wrong. Jong teases her for finally talking. She gets caught off guard, cutely claiming she only helped so she would not feel his pain. He asks how the technique works, and she explains that he suffocated because he tried pulling energy out of thin air. She looks over at Cho Il-sang's bloody corpse lying on the floor and asks to try with that. Blue Spirit guides him to the energy core. She sighs in annoyance, asking if she has to explain everything, and Jong just grins and says yes. Jong recites the ancient chant once again, channeling the warm energy through his veins and targeting the corpse. Blue Spirit watches in awe while smoking her pipe, as Jong forcibly drains the lingering chi straight out of Cho Il-sang's corpse into his own hand like a literal energy vampire. They will seriously make a Joker and Harley Quinn level couple.